I made a run and gun game at a Contra for VimJam 2 and finished third out of more than 400 entries. Here's what led to it and how it was made. I was learning Unreal with tutorials, including some YouTube videos. YouTube noticed and started to show me Gamejams Devlog videos. One of those was Mrs. 4dev's Jam of the same art kit, which made me interested in Vimlark's videos, and he posted a video about making a game jam, VimJam. It brought back memories of making in real life game jams. My teammates and I would show up somewhere with our computers and we'd make a game in 48 hours. While it's a thrill, having no life for a weekend and making a small game while being mostly sleep deprived has lost its charm over the years. Seeing an online game jam that would span over more than a week, including 2 weekends, seems like something I would enjoy. The problem is, I didn't plan to do it. I wasn't mentally ready, anxiety and imposter syndrome kicked in. I didn't feel ready, so I just skipped it. But I was still watching Vimlark's videos. Then he released the results of the VimJam. So many cool games, so many people making games just for the fun of it. I watched it and realized how I missed out on the pure joy of just making a thing. So I embarked on a quest to be ready for VimJam 2 and go full on try hard. So for months, I learned pixel art and made a couple of game jam games.
I love this character. I love that.
While I was still busy with my night jam game, the requirement for VimJam 2 was announced. VimJam follows the rules of 8 bits to infinity game jams, which are a bit different. There's a requirement and a theme, the requirement being a restriction that is announced ahead of time, while the theme is announced when the jam starts. So the requirement was... My first idea was obviously to make a boss fight. What I keep hearing again and again from Gamejams Devloggers is, don't make your first idea, cause it's probably the same idea everybody has. The thing is, everybody also says that. So I assumed that a lot of people would instead go for the same second idea, an office boss. And I was right. Since I didn't have a third brilliant idea, I decided it was more important to make a good game with a common idea than make an original bad game. I was planning to make a boss fight for my night jam game, but I cut it out because I was running out of time. Now that it's part of the requirement, I had to make one. I was juggling 2 ideas. Since I spent a couple months practicing top-down games, I thought I could make a top-down action game with a good old dodge roll and slash attacks against a larger boss. I also had an idea nested in my head for a while when I saw a run and gun game a la Contra on Reddit. The idea of having characters split in multiple sprites to be able to shoot in 8 directions but still move around freely was a technical challenge that I found interesting. The goal I have in all the jams I'm part of is to make a complete game that can be played from start to finish, and one of the best ways to accomplish that is to have a plan. Some people use fancy planning apps. I use Notepad. The jam would take place over 10 days, from Friday at noon to the next Monday's noon. I planned 3.5 hours on weekdays, 8 hours on weekend days, and I was planning to finish the game on Saturday. Then I planned how I'll use those hours, roughly based on what I did in my VimJam game. First day will obviously be about game design and prototyping the playable character. Then I planned most of the weekend to be game mechanics and the level design. A little less than 4 hours for the tutorial and the flow of the game, which is overflowing on Monday. The reason I planned it so early is to be able to ask for playtesters somewhere between Monday and Tuesday. Feedback is crucial, and I need time to act upon it. Feedback is useless if you don't have any time to fix the problems that are brought up. Then I planned 15 hours to do the pixel art, meaning from Monday to Friday, so basically all the weekdays, and 4 hours-ish for music and sound effects, cause those are important and often forgotten. And finally 5.5 hours for polish, cause when your game is finished, it's probably not. And Sunday to wrap things up, make a nice itch page and submit the game. The V-Day finally comes and the theme is On the Edge. I have no idea what to do with that theme. As it's probably obvious by now, English is not my first language, so it's hard for me to not take a theme literally. So I could only think of falling off an edge, and none of my two ideas were really fitting the theme. The clock was ticking, and I decided that having a game that doesn't fit the theme is better than not having a game at all. So I started making the run and gun idea and delegate applying the theme to future me. As planned, I started making the playable character. Even if I usually plan to make the art later, I generally try to make all the placeholder animations, so the functionality is the same. I won't have surprises when I make the final art. I made the character idle, run, jump, fall, and crouch. I made pass-through platforms. Then for the shooting, in the animations, I split the upper body in a different sprite, so the aiming can happen no matter what the movement of the character is. I made an 8-direction animation system made for top-down games, and I realized it would actually work for the upper body. So I can play the aiming idle animation on the upper body and set the direction of the aiming based on the player's input. Then make a single frame for the shooting in all directions to give impact to all the bullets flying out. So I had the base for the playable character, and it was time for my first comment on the Discord server. I feel it's important to openly talk and show your progress with other jam participants. They will notice your game and be curious to try it out when it's time to rate games. There's no point to be all secretive about it. Speaking of secrets, I'll start spoiling my game. So if you want to try it out beforehand, pause the video and go check the link in the description. So it's Saturday at this point, so I'm supposed to be making the game mechanics. So I need enemies to shoot at. I like the saying, work smart, not hard. And something that takes a lot of time to animate is a walk cycle. So I decided that all my enemies would be floating monsters. I was planning to make placeholder art, so I made some kind of blob, but I actually liked them and kept them in the final game. Again, for the sake of laziness, I didn't want to bother to make them flash when shot, but I wanted some kind of feedback. So I went for a slight push in the opposite direction with some stretch and squash to have some impact on the hits. I needed at least 2 enemy types. The obvious one was one shooting a projectile. You can't make a run and gun without some slowly moving bullets. The bottom shape of the enemies made me think of some squid/ghost. So I made some tentacle thingy for the shoot animation. I love how clear and visible the flashing bullets in Contra are, so I went for that. Then I wanted a kind of melee enemy that you would need to shoot before it reached you, and what made sense for a floating enemy was a self-destroying one. I added the bomb inside the enemy and used an awfully scaled explosion from my game Blast Bash as a placeholder. Then I threw some health, an HP bar, hurt animation and death, and it started to feel like an actual game. Saturday's over, time for a Discord comment. I still don't have a boss in a jam with boss as a requirement, and the theme is still nowhere in sight. It's Sunday. I'm supposed to finish game mechanics and level design, so it's about time I start making a boss. The idea for the boss was that you would chase him through multiple levels and encounters. So I wanted to be able to have multiple attacks without having too many animations to make. So I stayed with the flying enemy concept and made a big blob that could spawn stuff from its body, pretty much only playing an idle animation and reacting the same way the enemies do when hit. The boss wasn't doing anything, but I really needed to start working on level design. So I decided to make an improved version of my camera from Blast Bash that would only go toward the right, and based on the camera exposition, it would trigger level events, and those events could freeze the camera for an encounter. That's actually how most of the level design scripting is done in the game, via a blueprint triggered by those level events. I have an idling boss, but the theme is nowhere to be found. One of the recurring feedback I had from my VimJam game was that it was too repetitive. You would encounter the two enemy types right at the beginning, and from there it was more of that until the end. So something I really wanted to add in my VimJam 2 game was something unexpected that would break the pace and feel refreshing. Run and gun games often have exotic gameplay mechanics, like playing from top down or riding a bike. Then the theme finally gave me an idea. How about falling off a ledge while fighting the boss and fight the boss in free fall? The player could move in all directions, and I will only need to make a different lower body animation, and everything else could stay the same. It felt over the top and easy to make, so lazy me liked the idea. So I decided to make the second level on top of a train, banking on a 16-bit strobe, and it would allow me to make a chase with the boss at the end, where the level would end when the boss reaches 0 HP, throwing the train off a cliff, transitioning to the freefall level. Sunday was over. I made a quick update on Discord, not mentioning the freefall segment to not spoil it. I was definitely off schedule at that point. It's Monday. No way I'm doing a playtest today. I need a boss fight. I need a theme. I need a game. I finally decided it was time to look up synonyms and found out about being on edge. So I decided that I would include the theme in the story of the game. The main character would have stress issues, where he would be on edge and need the comfort of a bunny to calm it down. Then I thought it would be easy to make a simple gameplay mechanic where the player would have a stronger attack when at low HP, having a risk and reward twist. The bunny would act as a tutorial and would be kidnapped by the boss, being the motivation to chase the boss all game. Now that I finally knew what I was making, it was time to make the boss attacks. The boss would move up and down, left and right, damaging the player on impact, shoot multiple bullets, and spawn ping balls that would throw lasers. That's not much, but that's enough for what I needed. Tuesday, I'm not making art. I wanted to make the last gameplay ingredients I needed, being a damage zone and a health box. Since the bunny is supposed to help the main character relax, the health would be carrots, given by the bunny itself, and since the bunny was inside the boss, I could make a boss attack that is actually the bunny giving you a health box, having a way for the player to recover health during a boss fight. Also, since it was a game jam hosted by Vimlark, I had to have a bounce pad.
Friend. Thank you for the bounce pads.
Wednesday comes. I really need to focus on finishing level design and a tutorial. So first thing first, I needed the beginning with the bunny. I wanted the player to focus on learning navigation first and not the shooting right away. So I thought it would be funny and easy to make the character on edge from the start with his arms crossed.
You know, I'm super cool and I run with my arms crossed too. This is the opposite of the Naruto run. The Naruto run is the arms back. This is the... He's not a happy friend.
Since I was supposed to be doing the art by now, I had to make the bunny final right away. An idle, a walk, and obviously a pet animation. Healing the player back up. Thursday morning. I had everything I needed to finish level design. Looking how late I was from the plan, I decided to cut 3/4 of the last level and half of the second one. Since I only had 2 enemy archetypes and basically 3 boss attacks, I didn't want the mechanics to overstay their welcome and make another repetitive game. First level was the tutorial with the bunny, introduction to the boss, and the kidnapping of the bunny, introduction to the enemies, and an easy boss fight. Second level is the first real challenge, ending with a chase and the train falling off a cliff.
The train went off the cliff, that's beautiful.
Third level is obviously the freefall, not meant to be long or difficult.
Oh, that's great. This is fantastic. I love it.
But an unexpected change in gameplay to keep things fresh. Fourth level has a chase in the beginning with a laser following the screen and a lot of platforming. One last boss fight with extra enemies and damage zones. I really wanted to have a satisfying ending. The motivation for the boss to kidnap the bunny was to harvest the power of the fluffiness. So I decided that at the end the boss is hopeless and tries to take the power of fluffiness from the bunny, but the bunny instead gives it to the player, having a victory lap boss fight where the player just shoots overpowered bullets at the boss to finally finish him.
Yeah, it's my Fluffy. Oh, yes! Yes! The power of the floof.
Fade to black. The end. Always liked playable credits, so I decided to make a small level where you can just play around with the bunny. Since they are now reunited, I finally had a complete game. Friday morning. Was about time to get that playtest that I was 4 days late for. I made all the menus, set a couple settings to optimize the packaging, made a final package, and then...
Back here, you coward.
The game was crashing randomly when loading a level, only in a final package build, making it a lot harder to debug. Google didn't help, posts asking for the same issue were all unanswered. After banging my head on my keyboard for hours, I had to make a decision. I experienced bad bugs like that in the past, and I know this can take days to fix. And I didn't have days. So I decided it was better to have a finished game that randomly crashes than an unfinished game that doesn't. I slapped a disclaimer when booting the game so people don't give up and try again. All levels were accessible from the level select menu. So I finally uploaded the first build on itch and asked friends for feedback. One feedback that stood out was that the unedged state was underwhelming. There was a different bullet art and the bullet would deal more damage, but it was very meh. A friend suggested making a triple shot, so I did that. It would mean a larger hitbox, same damage, but look way cooler, and it's clearer to the player that they are in a different state. Saturday, technically the last day. It was about time to make the final art. First I made a tile set for the ground, passed through platforms, the train, and a fluffified pink version of the ground for the last level. Then I spent about 2 hours on 7 layers of parallax background. I made a cute bouncy gif for the carrot box. I made a final version of the explosion. Then I tackled the biggest job left, all the characters' final animations. I kinda liked the fact that my placeholder art was bald, so I kept that, and having a sleeveless shirt made it easier to separate the upper and lower body. Making the 8 aiming directions and their respective shoot animations took a lot of time. I also needed a name for the game. I brainstormed with people on Discord. I wanted something about fluff or fluffy, since it was the main story of the game, and someone came up with Tuff Fluff, and I loved it. It rhymes, and as we all know, if it rhymes, it's good. Better proof for that is that Rocky 5 doesn't rhyme. Sunday comes. I need to wrap this up. I found amazing 16-bits music made by Steven Melin. Then it was time for sound effects. I listened to way too many people slurping and eating loudly that someone should ever hear in their entire life to find a carrot eating sound, and I ended up recording it myself. I set up a nice itch page. I wanted the parallax for the train level to move automatically, so it looks like the train is moving, but I was too tired and I couldn't figure it out. Then the last thing I did in the middle of the night between Sunday and Monday was to make clouds randomly spawn and go up in the freefall level, and added difficulties in some tutorial boxes. Thanks to sleep deprivation, I made mistakes in all of them. I even wrote the wrong input in a tutorial box. I still had a couple of things on my to-do list, but it was about time to submit and take a rest. After a couple of weeks of rating and judging, the results finally dropped. I ranked 3rd out of 412 entries. I was very happy with that, including 2nd position for fun and design, which is the category that is the most important to me. And my stupid idea about some bunny and the power of fluffiness managed to get me number 8 in theme and limitation. And without much surprise, my worst category was technical implementation. I'm happy with the results. Looking back at it, I can attribute a lot of that success to good planning. Even though I went totally off track, the plan made me realize that I was late as soon as the first Sunday, and allowed me to adjust my scope, change some ideas to save time, and avoid perfectionism. Since it was in the top 3, my game was featured in Vimlark's video about VimJam 2. It did clench my thirst for victory and fulfilled the objective I set for myself a year prior. It will allow me to be less try-hard in future game jams, try new things, and take risks with ideas that might not work. If you guys want to try Tuff Fluff,
that came out so killer.
The link is in the description. I did a couple of touch-ups after the jam. Since I wasn't sleep deprived anymore, I figured out how to make the parallax move in the train level, and once and for all, fix the random crash that was haunting me. I also created an art pack available for free, reusing the art of the game. I'm Mullet. If you guys want to try my stuff, you can check my itch page in the description.